So people that are saying that Venom 2 is crazy are not allowed to say that when this movie came out at the same time.
I just feel like, everyone who's talking about how crazy Prisoners of Ghostland is need to see an actual weird movie.
Right?
So, all right. So we saw Titane separately,
Yeah.
but
Um,
I kind of insisted that you see this.
what was that?
I kind of insisted that you see this.
I was morbidly curious because I was reading the synopsis. I was like, well, this sounds like an experience. Like
Yeah.
not the minute by minute plot details, obviously, but just like this is what the movie's generally about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
let's see where this goes. And then,
So I just right off the bat, I just want to say I wasn't sure how I felt about it after watching it,
I had the same feeling. Yeah.
but I knew that I really liked that it exists. And as time has gone on and I continue thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, I like that this is a thing. I
Yeah, I
the
kind of
kind of
fall in the same
filmmaking,
ballpark.
huh?
Like I don't think I'll ever watch it again,
I
but
might, I might, but I just really like this is the kind of weird ass filmmaking that feels very interesting and original to me.
it is
And
definitely that. And it's like I was thinking about, I was like, objectively speaking, as weird as it is, I can say this is a good movie.
yeah, no, it's definitely a good movie.
I was like, I'm debating what I got out of it.
Yeah. I mean, this is a movie that has some weird ideas and
Yeah.
uses them metaphorically and does some really interesting things with it. And the performances are so good.
Yeah.
Like the two leads are impeccable in their roles. And it's really fascinating to see how this plays out between these two characters. And it's just such an interesting um dynamic to
Yeah.
watch.
Um,
And I just like I was constantly I never knew what was going to happen next.
yeah, for sure. Like
I
100%.
really
Like
enjoyed that feeling.
if you knew where this is going, then you're either fucking psychic or lying.
Yeah, if you thought this was predictable, or if you say you thought this was predictable, you're no, you I don't believe you. I had no way I could believe you.
and
Like,
what's so interesting about this too is the fact that it has like zero fucks about explaining anything to the audience,
yeah,
which
and
I
it kind of
kind of
worked.
respect in a weird way. Um,
It took honestly after she did the whole thing, like that scene in the bathroom, I was wondering what the fuck she was doing, and it took me a while to realize what was going on. Like after she got picked up from the police station and everything,
oh yeah,
or the other guy, like I was like, wait, what's? Oh, okay. So it took me a minute. I know that they kind of spelled it out, but I was like, it took me a second to connect the dots. But I kind of appreciate that. I kind of appreciate a movie that doesn't just like spell every little thing out for me and is just doesn't need to say it out loud. It just, shows me, doesn't tell me.
yeah,
And the movie did that. And I caught up and I
yeah.
appreciate a movie letting me catch up.
It's a movie that definitely like kind of forces you just to like, yeah, we're not gonna like just figure it out. Like you're smart, you can do it.
Yeah.
And if you can't
And
figure
we're
it
gonna
out, just
make
go with it.
you
Like, what are you gonna do?
yeah, and we're gonna make you uncomfortable. We're gonna
Extremely.
we're gonna have some really uncomfortable moments just to fuck with you.
Like, we're
And
not going to explain any of it. We're not going to answer
yeah,
any of the questions you have, and we don't give a fuck.
yeah. I and at the same time, I can't remember. I remember seeing trailers for this movie and being like, they mentioned like tenderness, and I was like, that does not look like this kind of movie. But watching it, I cannot deny this movie was in turns and sometimes at the same time just horrific,
Yeah.
really heartfelt and touching and tender, and fucking really funny. Like
There is
it
a
had
dark
some,
humor to this.
it had some really funny
Um,
moments.
and this is a movie that's hard to wrap your head around a lot of the time, because especially in the first time watching it, because I was
Mhm.
texting you after I watched this, and I was like, well,
Nope.
that happened.
We're
I
like, that was
don't
an
know how I
experience.
feel about it.
No, the moment after I got out of the theater, I was like, I texted you and I was like, you have to watch Titane.
Wait, did you text me that? I don't think you did.
I thought I did. I
Well,
was
to be
pretty sure I
fair,
did.
there was a lot going on that night.
Oh yeah, I meant to text you, but then I decided against it because I realized you were dealing with other stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I appreciate
the
that.
thought crossed my mind immediately. But the I don't know. There's the score to this movie is really interesting. The visuals of this film, like not
Yeah,
just the cinematography, but the way they compose the lighting and the just the scenes in general is really fascinating. It's
yeah,
constantly compelling and interesting.
yeah, for sure. Um, and it definitely plays into the whole show don't tell aspect of the film, where again there's a lot of things that happen about it. If I sound like I'm repeating myself, it's because I'm just really fucking tired.
Okay.
um that it's just more just a there are like many character beats are made without a single word being spoken. It's all told visually.
Mhm.
It's all
Mhm.
told through this music and lighting and the choreo, not necessarily choreography, also sometimes choreography. um and just all these
Cinematography
little moments that really do inform a lot about who these people are. And
and the subtlety of the acting.
yeah, for sure, and the
Yeah.
performances, of course.
Yeah.
And it all culminates in this finale where just a lot is thrown at you all at once.
Yeah, the ending was definitely a choice, and I found that an interesting choice. But it was, oh man, there was uh what this movie does, and especially with the violence in the first act,
Mm-hmm.
like. I thought that scene in the house was so funny. Like it was just the
I mean, there's definitely
I
a
was
question is
laughing.
like, definitely a question I had was just why while all this
Yes,
is happening.
but
Uh,
but just that moment where she's like,
yeah, I was
and
like,
like
again, dark humor.
that moment I laughed so hard. But no, it does this thing where it takes this really intense, sociopathic, abrasive, like main character really does not want to interact with people. Like she does not like people and is very isolated, both within and without her home, and just doesn't know how to people in general.
Yeah.
And seeing them take the character, especially considering what they portray her as in the first third of the movie, and then take the journey that they do with making her kind of vulnerable and
Mhm.
having trouble with different things, and at the same time clearly slowly coming to care about this other character,
Yeah.
even with kind of a
Um,
weird situation that she initially enters into to kind of exploit kind of coldly
it,
and
it
and
it does
heartlessly.
it does play like the fact that the main character for a good chunk of the film is pretty like, I don't want to say irredeemable, but pretty just
I wouldn't have a problem saying that they go pretty far with her.
yeah.
Like,
So
I
to
mean,
even
it's
like
not like
attempt to give her a redemption arc at all is kind of questionable, but the same way it kind of works, and it feels like it
yeah,
shouldn't work. But again, it weirdly does.
it's one of those things where initially I kind of I still have mixed feelings about it because I take issue with taking a character like that and making them seem like, oh, they were just being mistreated. Like this is not this is if anything, this is almost like what they were making fun of with Cletus Clay. Like
Cletus
uh
Cassidy.
Cletus Cassidy.
Yeah.
Um but just it's just the whole idea of like you forgot how I was treated, and it's like fuck this guy. Like no. Um This is
I
like
mean,
the
like,
antithesis of that.
there's still a comeuppance. There's still like
Somewhat,
consequences.
yes.
A good chunk of the movie is, oh no, it's the consequences of my own actions.
Yeah. And I don't know, what I really empathized with was the other lead. Like
Yeah,
that guy is
he's definitely like the emotional bedrock of the film, in the second and third act. Because he doesn't show up for a good chunk of the film until like halfway through.
No, it was about a third of the way.
Oh, either way, it takes a while.
Yeah, he shows up in Act 2. Like Act 1 is introducing her. Act 2 is introducing him and then them to each other and kind of getting to know both of them and then it progressing from there. But one of the really interesting things about this movie, well, no, let's save that for spoiler territory.
Yeah, we gotta talk about spoilers at some point during this.
Yeah. But just I if you're into really weird fucking movies, like
this is the definition of acquired taste.
Yes, but the thing about it is that it's not like cheaply weird. This is a movie that takes the weirdness and uses it to be metaphorical and actually explore the characters in interesting ways and actually just have really unusual characters in it, but the characters aren't there to be campy or just like, oh, look how crazy I am. Like, no, they're genuinely just fucked up and weird, and it empathizes with them and it treats them like human beings, and it really kind of it plumbs an interesting sort of humanity in doing so, and I really fucking appreciate that. Like, yeah, I would straight up give this a 9 out of 10. Like, honestly,
so would I. Even though I have no intention of watching it ever again.
Hey man, some 10 out of 10s you're never going to watch again. All right,
yeah, for sure.
I'm never going to watch Grave of the Fireflies again, but that's a 10 out of 10 in my book.
Like, I don't know if I put this in my top 10 of the year, but I can say
I don't know.
But I can say it's like, yeah, this is still like, if you like weird, genuinely good shit, then like this is better than Prisoners of the Ghostlands in terms of like, this is what weird actually fucking looks like.
Yeah, Prisoners of the Ghostland is definitely making my bottom 10 of the year. But as far as like top 10, I don't know if this would make it, just because I was like looking through the best of things this year so far, and there's been some pretty good stuff. It's got some strong contenders.
Yeah, we've got a lot of good movies this year.
For me, it might. So that aside, spoiler territory.
Yeah, let's do it. We got to talk about this shit.
Spoilers.
Like, this is definitely worth seeking out cold. We've been careful to avoid every possible plot point we can.
Really careful. But yeah, so now we're going full spoilers. So first off, where
do we fucking start?
That was actually just fucking like I've seen in a while. That was the funniest murder spree I've seen in a while. Like, I enjoyed the shit out of that scene. I was just like,
oh Jesus Christ! Like,
oh no! Like, and it was really fucking brutal. Like, some of it got really brutal.
Like, it's like shoving like a leg of a bar stool down somebody's fucking throat. Like, then
and then fucking smashing down onto it as you hear it crunching, and like,
and just like all the horrible ways to use a hairpin. You know?
Yeah, right. But then I really enjoyed the subtlety of well, I mean, I guess it's subtle in the sense they don't say much out loud, but it's all in very clearly conveyed through glances and stuff. Just her relationship with her actual father.
Yeah.
From the moment that they first interact, like in the car, they have a contentious relationship. They don't like each other. He doesn't treat her well. He tries to drown her out, and she just hates him and wants to bug the shit out of him. And then as time progresses, that hasn't changed at all. Like, when it shows you very distinctly that she's sitting on the couch eating a completely different kind of junky meal from the fancy shit he's eating. And she's watching the news and he's sitting facing the opposite direction at the table. Like, there's a very distinct visual line drawn there. And I really enjoyed how that was visually conveyed. But even when she comes home from the murder spree and he's just like standing there watching her, like, he knows.
Yeah, which makes you wonder, is like, is this not the first time she's come home from a murder spree?
Oh, absolutely not, because that's what they're reporting on the TV.
Oh, I thought it was meant like that one particular moment. I didn't realize there was like a series of intertangled murders.
Well, she kills the guy in the parking lot, which for good reason. But
Yeah,
like
that was like,
the
all right, that's
murder,
valid.
I'm okay with that one.
Yeah.
The murder spree in the house, though, like that's unfortunate and uncalled for. And but then when she's sitting in her house eating cereal, and watching the news, they're talking about like a couple of bodies that showed up, or like a couple of people that went missing, and clearly there's like a serial killer going around.
Okay.
So it's been a thing, and
Yeah, I didn't connect that to her for some reason, but
given the way this movie does storytelling, I'm assuming that that's what they're trying to do.
it could very well be.
And it would make even more sense for her father to sit facing away from the TV and not be trying to like. He looked kind of irritated that she was watching the news. And I
Yeah.
didn't really understand why, but that makes sense in hindsight. But then like I just wanted to talk for a second about the gender fuckery in this movie, because this movie, the way that it uses her whole like representing as male to protect herself kind of deal. There's so many little things dropped throughout the movie that are very weird things that could be taken as allegorical to certain people's own gender journeys. And
Okay.
especially at the very end when he sees her body.
Yeah.
And and he's told her the whole time through the movie, you're my son, no matter what they say, no matter who you are. And then he sees that she's a woman, and he says, I don't care, I still love you, I will protect you. And even when she tells him what her real name is, he just goes like, okay, and goes with it. And there's something really beautiful about that portrayal of a connection between parents and their kids. That like I feel like certain people having certain gender journeys would find this really validating and
kind of for one quick second.
Kind of cool. Yeah.
Sorry about that. As you were saying.
But yeah, I feel like this movie's the way that this movie conveys the whole thing of the identity. Clearly it's not strictly supposed to be like a gender transition kind of deal, but the idea that throughout the movie, when people notice discrepancies and stuff and people try to point out like that's not your son, he continuously just vehemently defends it and just goes 100% all in on his relationship with her. And the way that plays out throughout the movie at different moments is kind of really beautiful.
Okay.
And I just really appreciated that aspect of the movie in the middle of this weird fucking experience. Like all this crazy shit going on, and they managed to put part of it into like being identity based and relationship based and familial. And it's, God, what was it like? I'm thinking about it now, and you could take the metaphors even further to be like, the whole pregnancy deal.
Yeah.
And what it does to her body, and how her body changes, and how like she's literally splitting at the seams because of it. And how at the very end, it's kind of her giving up herself and kind of dying because of this thing that she was trying to contain, this thing that she used to be that kind of just bled over.
Okay.
Like, it's weird. It's this is something I'm just thinking about right now. But
no, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
Like, think about how throughout the movie she can't hide this thing growing in her the whole time. That's it's the fact that before that she was this monster. She was a murderer. She couldn't relate to people. She hated being who she was, and presenting as she was, and interacting with people, not knowing how to interact with them within the rules of society. And then getting to a point where she was impregnated by a car, because out of everybody that she's interacted with, that's the one sexual relationship that she was like, yeah, this works. Like the thing that she connected to was not even a human thing.
I'm wondering how that clashes. And this time I'm looking for feedback on, because I'll admit it is a blind spot in my knowledge base.
Sure, but
I was more like, how does that correlate with the fact that she chose to impersonate this person out of survival as opposed to embracing their true identity?
Well, that's the thing. It's you play a role, right? And it's this idea of like, I don't want to speak for everybody. Like, I don't want to speak for a whole demographic that is not, can't speak for themselves in this conversation necessarily, but it's this whole thing of, if you adopt a persona to survive, to integrate with a group, especially the way that masculinity is presented within this movie, like it is hyper masculine.
Oh yeah.
There's the fucking firefighters. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
And even when, she's presenting mask in that group, she's not even, she's scared to even use her voice, and has never really been accepted by a group of people properly before, has always felt like an outcast. And, they call her gay and stuff and just make fun of her for just being there the way that she is.
Yeah.
But she feels safe there for whatever reason. And slowly she becomes more accepted by them. And then near the end of it, she comes out as who she truly is, or shows a bit of who she truly is in that really fucking awkward dance scene.
Yeah.
That was weird. But then just reaching that point, the weird stuff with the hair and everything, but like reaching that point and how weirded out everybody is. Even the dad has a point where he's like, I can't do this, and walks out. But even then, that might be like a parent, catching a glimpse of their child's sexuality or something for a minute, and that might be on them. But then at the very end, it is literally the death of her human body and giving birth to this new person that is a combination of, the machine and, what she presented as. And maybe what she was presenting as through the movie was more of an identity that she could feel safe as than what she was before that. Who knows? Like, I have to dig into it a bit more. This is stuff I'm literally just thinking about right now and making up as I go along.
I was kind of like, fucking hell, that is a deep interpretation.
That's the thing. Like, as I think about more details about the movie, it feels more concrete.
No, I think you're onto something. It is not something I considered. So it's more like, huh. Yeah,
so
that sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's what I'm saying about this movie. It's kind of abstract with its messaging, and it tackles some interesting ideas, and not in a skin deep kind of way. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, he has to dress as a lady to hide from the cops. What antics and hijinks will come from this? It's like, it's genuinely an investigation of identity and a certain amount of suffering and grief and trying to figure out who you are. And, I don't know, it's deeper than first glance, I think. And I really, really appreciate a movie doing something like this.
I mean, that would give the scene with the dress a bit more context,
right? There's gender fuckery moments, and the fact that like dude pulls out these pictures from when his son was a kid and he would run around in a dress, and that's why he thinks, like, when you first see it and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I was like, "Uh-oh, is this gonna get transphobic?" And then he pulls out the thing, and I'm like, oh no, this is going to be the opposite of that. This is super sweet.
Poor man.
Oh, that poor bastard. But at the same time, like, what a beautifully tragic figure. Like, full of grief, full of sadness and love.
Poor man who just needs somebody to love and take care of.
Yeah.
And like finds this person like tragedy. Yeah, just feels like a failure, needs to rise back to some level of masculinity he apparently like hasn't held up to in a long time. That's why he's like, I'm assuming he's taking steroids.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what that was.
Because
Honestly, I think that there's something about I don't know, like there was something really interesting I thought about that scene where they were doing the fire drill and he sees the child curled up in the cabinet burned up.
yeah, I was wondering about that too.
That I'm wondering if his kid died in a fire
That's kind of what I was thinking.
and he just reported them as missing because he didn't want to go through all of that. And he didn't even tell his wife because he didn't want to put her through that or something. And then he just, that's why he's been so dedicated to just pouring his life into firefighting.
Yeah, honestly, like that was kind of what I was thinking because that made the most sense to me. Which is also why he didn't seem all that phased when he kind of said like, I don't care who you are, as far as I'm concerned, you're my son. Basically being like, I know my biological child, but I'm accepting you as that anyway.
Yeah, it makes sense it makes more sense at that initial scene too, because you assume that it's just him being jarred after 20 or whatever fuck years that his son's been missing and they're alive, but the idea that it's this other thing and he knows from the start, that's a really compelling shit. I gotta watch this shit again now. Like I gotta watch this again. There's no way I can't watch this again. This was good. Yeah. This is interesting enough to merit a second viewing, at least for me.
Fair enough. I can totally see that. Yeah, I don't have I think you've taken like the most interesting theory you can possibly make out of all of this. So I don't really know what else I can add to it.
I really just wanted to talk about it for a while, like see what you thought.
No, I like the more you talk about it, it's more like, shit, that does make sense. Like that,
it's smarter than it looks.
I don't know how the car baby plays into it, but I can see everything else.
I think it's the new her. I think metaphorically it's the new her.
You can see it as a metaphor for rebirth, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that it's the death of her old self and the birth of her new self, and it's the father still like lovingly accepting it for everything that it is,
with its metal as fuck
spine, yes,
and like half metal skull. This kid's gonna be if this kid is going to be like a rock metal like megastar, then I don't know what the fuck you're doing with your life.
Yeah, he's gonna grow up thinking he's super like ugly and a freak and everything, and then when he reaches adolescence, he's quickly going to find out that there are some people that think he's really hot, and they are very strange people.
Gonna kill it in the death metal scene,
right? Just go hang out with like the cyberpunk fucking goth metal kids. You'll be fine.
There's a place for everybody.
So yeah, that was man. I love this movie. I really enjoyed it. I was so relieved that it was as good as it was.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially after watching.
I liked it way better than Raw.
Say that again?
I enjoyed Raw quite a bit, but I liked this way better.
Raw, it seemed, was his other film?
Yeah, Raw was technically it was their second movie, but it was the first big one. So
hey, I mean, again, every once in a while, I'm down for some weird shit, and it's nice when it's actually like good and not weird for its own sake.
Exactly. Hey, that's what I'm looking for. This is the kind of weird shit I'm looking for out of my movies. Like when you give me a weird movie, this is what I want. This is something heartfelt and intellectual and like fascinating and compelling and like something you can think about and really chew on the meat on, and not like, samurais versus cowboys. Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to stop complaining about Prisoners of Ghostland for a while. Like,
I'm not stopping you, man. I'm
resentful. I'm resentful of that movie. Like,
I don't hate it as much as you do, but I agree with everything you're saying about it.
I was so bored. I was promised something weird and crazy and interesting, and I got like a 13-year-old's idea of what if they did this? Like, no, fuck off. Fucking hated that movie so much. Sorry to anyone who liked it. I really fucking hated it. Oh, it thought it was so much better than it was. I
got my fair share of those films.
I don't know. So anyway, I think that's all I've got for this.
I think that's all I got too. So we're still in catch-up mode. I still gotta watch fucking James Bond and a bunch of other shit.
I haven't watched the last like 3 James Bond movies, so I don't even feel like I'd be qualified.
I mean, it's sad when
I
you
could
actually
binge
have to watch and to understand what's happening in the newest one. But,
really, because I feel like there was a strong thing given that there's like a through line to the plots.
well, that's my point. Is like up until the Daniel Craig era, is all like everyone's kind of like stood on their own.
No, that's what I'm saying though. I haven't watched the last 3 Daniel Craig movies. Like I haven't even watched Quantum of Solace. I watched Casino Royale and I was like, oh, this is good, and then never picked it back up.
To be fair, Quantum is probably the weakest one.
Yeah, I've heard that. But that's the thing. Like if I watch this one, I kind of have to watch the ones leading up to it, right?
It's gonna be interesting just because like the new Daniel Craig Bond was definitely like a post 9/11 reaction to like doing like spy movies again, and now that's kind of become dated. So it's kind of like it's kind of right back where it started.
We got a new era. We gotta have a cyber savvy James Bond. We gotta have a James Bond that takes some cues from where Fast and the Furious is gone, right? Like we gotta
yes, where it's all about family.
The last 2 Fast and the Furious movies, they try to turn into fucking spy movies. Like they're just like, what if we just like Fast and the Furious, but like international spies? It's like, sure, okay.
It's just like 001 through 9, like all together. We're not just spies, we're family.
Yeah.
Which would make Idris Elba as Jane Bond even more appropriate.
That's pretty great. That's pretty great. He's already been Black Superman though, so
that's true.
Can't have that crossover.
All right, guys. So thank you all for watching.
All right. Yeah. Bye, everybody.